I say, whoa, now there, what's happening with the Charles Manson and them foul shot and reporting on the Bamboozled Again News Network? And I'll title this one, My Social Observations Watching the One-Sided Chess Game Being Played Out on Society, right? And I've said this before, and I've always carried this kind of belief, right? If I don't like the rules of the game, I just don't play. Or if I look at the rules, the parameters of the game, and it's going to be hard for me to win, if at all, what is the point of playing? Just like, the quote unquote, drug game. How many people, they might have, had some motion or whatever for a period of time. But as time proceed on, it's all for naught. And then more oftentimes than not, for the rare individuals who, I guess, renounce, those ways, ideas, reinvent themselves, get a skill or whatever the case may be, brand themselves and go on with life. A lot of time it's meant to kind of put you behind the eight ball. I was having a conversation with my man, East Shore Reg, right earlier today. And we were talking about, because we grew up in the same general area, life kind of went different ways, but we know mutual people. So we were discussing a party that we both know, right? And I hadn't seen him online in a minute. So typically you don't see somebody online, out of sight, out of mind. But then you think they locked up or whatever the case may be. Come to find out that is the case. But it's not so much that we're about the same age, in our early 40s, right? This individual, got into the drug game for the purposes of, self-grandizement, I'm assuming, false identity, that I talk about on here, so on and so forth. So when you wear a false identity, if it gets stripped of you, you have nothing to fall back on, but just who you are as an individual. That's why this society promotes materialism, superficiality, and as we see, the illusion of that is being dissipated. So when the illusion of a thing gets taken away, you have nothing but fall back on. And a lot of times you get exposed for what you really are. And I think we're in this kind of space where things are being exposed and brought to light, right? I'm kind of taking the scenic route. So anyway, so he's now doing 14 years in prison in his early 40s. He basically, I didn't know this, but last year sometime he got jammed up, I guess, like, holding his girl hostage, domestic abuse, things of that nature, and he has prior, convictions for the same thing, right? Now, prior to me finding this out, when he was on, viewing through the lens of social media, he would take trips here. He's buying the designer this that we all know is false now. He's kind of almost, as I would take it, not in, like a knock on me, but I like to believe when somebody's attempting to portray something, I can read that, right? So it's like, granted, financial, cool, you're doing great in life, that's cool, right? But it was almost in the sense of I'm valuable as a person because of my financial status, the things that I'm able to buy, where I'm able to go and take this particular lady who had other kids, right? Now, you've seen rhetoric online about the detriment of being a stepfather or whatever. I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I would just say in general, whether the woman has kids or not, choose wisely. And typically, y'all should be equally yoked in value system, right? So because I believe, and I understand this too, that you can portray whatever, but women do have the gift of being able to smell the real you on you, no matter what you try to portray. Some people can act tough, but, people see through that, so on and so forth, right? So, in his effort, I guess what happened was, in his effort to, portray a certain image that's not really him, if somebody calls you on it, typically you act or behave erratically. You know what I mean? I believe she, saw him for what he was and used him accordingly. And, when he didn't get the proper behavior I think he was looking for because of his financial status, he resorted to violence. Now he's doing, again, 14 years in prison, which I don't believe he's well suited to handle, based on, prior street issues, so on and so forth. But I'm just highlighting this to highlight the fact that in this illusionary society again, of superficiality, finance. Just like when you go to jail, you get stripped of all that, ain't no guns or whatever. The only thing you have to stand on, even in the prison planet of this life, is who you are as an individual, what you believe, and what you stand on. Like they said, all man has in this world is his testicles and a word. You know what I'm saying? Everything else is circumstantial. It can come and go. It can be taken from you. Somebody give it to you. Case in point. I was at work today and it was brought up about, me refusing the chickenpox demonstration, right? So I kind of got a little rah, you know what I'm saying? Because nobody from the higher ups has said anything to me about it once I emailed them. So, whatever, I told them what it was. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody said nothing to me yet. But when the person asked me again, I was like, well, basically, nobody said nothing to me. The hospital says mandatory. I said, oh, okay, that's the end of the issue. Now, I'm willing to let the chips fall where they may, because no matter what the potential consequence or detriment that might be levied for refusing this particular thing, I don't care because I'm not getting it. And I only feel, now I can, ad nauseum and in numerous different ways and aspects, historically, scientifically, it don't make no difference. Spiritually, physically, whatever, it don't make no difference. But at the end of the day, I don't even feel like explaining myself because I don't feel like it. I'm not getting it. That's the end of the discussion. And I'm going to feel disrespected if you try to convince me. So where does that leave us? And wherever that leaves us, I'm cool, fine, and dandy with it. And I ain't going to say, well, let's say hypothetically, oh, well, you can't work. Oh, okay, well, it's been a pleasure, y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all. You know what I'm saying? Just like when we saw during the time, right? They under the threat of fear of losing some stake in life or whatever, they push people to get something. And then overnight, after a period of time, of course, overnight, then they say, oh, now you don't need it no more. Things going back to normal. Nobody's getting sick overnight. You know what I'm saying? Then we see all these, I gotta be careful on here. Now we see all this reciprocal medical issues that weren't taking place until that was rolled out. So what did you get it for? Especially when they would make these critiques about, well, you're a danger to me because you don't have it. But if you got it and it worked, how are you in danger? If it does what they say it's supposed to do, and if it's so great, why do they have to force, mandate, or scare you into getting it? Just like I'm not really a great salesman, because my sales pitch is to do what it's supposed to do. Actually, here, I'll let you try it. Tell your peoples about it. But overly trying to convince you with a whole bunch of words out, no, man. It is what I said it is, and I stand on that. End of discussion. I'm going to holler at y'all. I don't feel like doing no PowerPoint That's why even the business world here don't make no sense to me. You sit in these 4-hour lectures about, some entrepreneurial endeavor, and then you got to fill out 357 pages worth of paperwork and fine print. That's where they get you in the fine print. I don't feel like doing it. Here's the game plan. Here's what it is. Do you want to rock with it or not? You need some clarification, I give it to you. Q&A, but about 10 minutes, we out of here, because I got something else to do. All that, man, that's why they keep hitting you with the 24-hour news cycle. They have to keep bombarding you with tomfoolery. Because, let's say, left up, okay, even back to, let's say, the time, right? If they didn't put it on TV, could you tell it was happening? You know what I mean? Did you see ambulances flying up and down the street? Did you see piles of the less fortunate who don't have homes stacked on top of each other? No. They changed your reality. And I don't let nobody change my reality, especially after coming all this way. So again, if I don't like the rules of the game, okay, I'm playing a chess game that's one-sided, but they're not permitting me to move. I'm going to just flip the table over like Jesus. Game over. The game is over once you stop playing. And I see the benefit of such. The game of social acceptance. Even with the Diddy thing going on now. Let's say I got $50 million. It'd be nowhere in my course of thinking, oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood and hang out with movie stars, knowing they all PDF files. I'm going to use the $50 million to escape physically. You know what I mean? I don't want to hang out with them. I've had my various issues throughout life, but being an idol worshiper ain't one of them. I don't care anything about rubbing shoulders with, whoever and wanting to be popular. A friend of the world is an enemy of God. You know what I mean? And I actually embrace the role of being antagonistic and adversarial to the world system that don't benefit me none, and we're diametrically opposed because our value systems are different. So since I stopped playing the game and started constructing my own game to play, I've been successful. Not necessarily in a financial sense and so on and so forth, but in a peace sense, in a spiritual, mental, emotional growth sense, in a sense of gaining knowledge and then applying said knowledge that I now know to be true. You know what I mean? I'm one of the only people in my personal life or that I know of who do that for the most part. Or pertinent information that I may find online, YouTube, Google, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? I found all that out because I'm not playing an erroneous, irrelevant game. Because if I'm distracted by playing a game I'm not set to win, there's no way possible, because my focus is over here on a game that I'm set up to lose and doing things that will set me up to win. You know what I mean? Like segue please. I just got some grapeseed extract and some wormwood and I think black cloves, which are supposed to eat parasites or whatever. Because I was actually at work one day, and one of my coworkers had made a Mediterranean salad or whatever, and ate 2 bowls of the junk, right? And then after I ate it, I think my stomach growling. So I'm like, why my stomach growling? I just ate 2 bowls of salad and I'm pretty sated at this point, right? But then I don't know how true it is, but it was the parasites in my stomach that were growling for sugar. What is this inside of me? All this healthy stuff. So I'm working on a further level of detox and so on and so forth. I detox socially. Stay in detox socially. I stay in, a mental detox. Within the last month, I really haven't been consuming the same amount of YouTube content that I used to. And then most of it that I do is more so in the lines of just spiritual, personal development, right? I physically detox. I go through fasting. I've talked about on here, you know what I mean? But again, I can't get to that point if I'm operating in the ways of Babylon that at this point don't seem to be benefiting anybody nothing. You know what I mean? I seen another rapper, Finesse 2-Time, had to go back to prison, and the guy from Philly, ARab, which is amazing. And me and my man Isha Rick were talking about how much the world is a contradiction. So currently, as it currently stands, right, we have individuals in thuggery and gangsterism, right, who for financial and I guess financial purposes, branding purpose or whatever, they're actually violating the very laws they say they uphold by coming on here and telling you all the crimes they committed. So we'll say, we don't like snitching, but it's okay if I snitch on myself so that you believe that I am who I say I am. And even if you're like that and say that, now you're in jail and now you're part of the prison industrial complex. And by the time you get out, money will be, numbers in a phone or on a computer screen. Nothing makes any sense. And now here's one of these days where it don't really affect me or whatever. I'm just highlighting what I see. You know what I mean? It's a contradiction. Politics is a contradiction. Every 4 years or even maybe, I don't know about locally, but these people run on doing certain stuff, get in there and don't do none of it. And then if you ask them why they ain't do it, they just blame somebody else. That don't even work in your personal life. You know what I'm saying? Go to work and ask, them people ask you why you ain't do something, and you say, because my coworker XY. I ain't asked them. I asked you about you, yo. You're not gonna have a job long, yo. It don't work in your personal life. You know what I mean? Or here's one when during Trump, and I think he was picked anyway. Here's another one. Because here's another thing. It's if voting actually gave you the power to change something, they wouldn't let you do it. But they give you the illusion of inclusion in the process, but they've already picked the person they want anyway. They just help you pick them so you're in compliance, or you feel like you got a stake in it when you really don't. Because I learned this back in school. The Electoral College elects the president. Did we forget that? You know what I'm saying? But again, back to that. Oh, I'm voting, or how would they say it? Typically, you don't vote for somebody because you like what they stand on, or you believe they can whoop de whoop de whoop de woo, right? You're voting for them because you don't like this person. You can't choose employees. I'm going to hire you because you seem... No, I'm going to hire you for the sheer fact of the matter, I don't like them. Try that in quote unquote dating. I'm gonna pick you, not because of your merit. I'm gonna pick you because I dislike this person this much. Then I'm gonna choose you by default. See how none of this, when you personally apply this stuff in your regular life, it don't make no sense, and you will get a detrimental outcome every time. That's why I don't be listening to nothing. Now, I listen to it in the sense of knowing what's going on or whatever, but I don't be feeding my ear, and I don't pay them people's no mind. That, like, when let's say somebody threaten you and you pay them no mind, of course you gotta perceive if threat real, whatever. But let's say somebody just talking yin yang, or they attempting to try you or see where you at with it, and just looking like they steal it and then going about your business. You know what I mean? You just talked all this threat stuff to me, and I paid you absolutely no mind because I ain't worried about you doing nothing to me. I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? That just disarms all that, yo. So now I've been working on to a greater degree, not paying people no mind. Not that I really had to do that, but I'm talking about like more so, you know, the news cycle and the things of that nature. I'm not paying that stuff no mind. I'm aware of it, but I don't pay it no mind. Like I'm aware my neighbor got a dog, but I ain't worried on bite me. You know what I'm saying? Why would I be worried about that? I just do my due diligence so that don't happen. Just back to the Diddy trial, right? Now we're hearing all this egregious stuff about urination and all this type of stuff like that there, man. But this went on for 10 years. But here's another thing, again, how they've psychologically just demeaned everybody. Now, Cassie is a nice looking girl, right? So say if she wasn't Cassie, you just met her, right? For the right amount of finance or the belief of doing so or whatever she was getting out of it, she will allow herself to be peed on for 10 years, yo. And then you sit there and then you want to wine and dine and do the Cyrano de Bergerac thing, not realizing people done peed on her, yeah. Case in point, and I'm looking at this from my old job because I have to, you know, detail this, right? Because I learned a lot, right? Now there were bone queasers there, right? Go hard in the paint, loose with the guts, right? And then there were those who were, let's say, of our skin folk, right? Who were more, as I call it, the second drunkest person in the room theory, right? Where they look a little better because they're not as drunk as that person, but they still drunk from the fornication of the wine of Babylon themselves, right? But they're a little more modestly dressed. They might be a little more professional. They might be a little more in shape, right? Of those demographic of the sisterhood, they was doing more splacking than the overt bone queasers. One was going town to town getting punished, you know what I'm saying? And had a boyfriend and a newborn child. The other one kind of looked like Brandy from the 90s. If you see her, whatever, you wouldn't think nothing. But here's the tripping part. She was an active practitioner of witchcraft. But you don't know these things other than you give it time and a further inspection. You know what I mean? But just looking on it straight optically, you're like, oh, she seemed nice, woo. You don't know she was with her, what they call them people, the Grand Master, and they just sacrificed a goat last week. I said, yo, what kind of Negroes is I'm around, yo? You know, like I turned to Chris Tucker, my voice got all hot. Man, what's going on here, man? This is crazy, man. It's real in the battlefield. Nothing is as it seems. Nothing is what it looked like. I was saying the word that even if it were possible, he would deceive even the elect. You know what I'm saying, me? But here's the key point. If you got enough patience, eventually okay, let's say I see a Doug, right? That's how we pronounce it in Maryland, Doug, right? Let's say I see a Doug. then it should have the attributes of a dog. It should bark. It should, like, I don't know, Doug toys, Doug bone, whatever, right? That's how I know it's a dog. But see, now what's happening, people are portraying themselves to be whatever they're portraying themselves without the attributes and characteristics that's supposed to go along with that. You know what I'm saying? Now they say if it walked like a duck, quack like a duck, it's a duck, right? But now people are claiming to be ducks, not in a negative sense. They're claiming to be ducks, but they exhibit all the traits of a honey badger. And then when you say something as simple as that, well, if you're a duck, why do you exhibit all these traits that are conducive to a honey badger? They get mad with you. That's all you gotta do. Ask a simple, direct question and watch how it blow up. Even though they believe their manipulation to be so grand, it still falls apart under simple scrutiny. You know, man? Simple. I mean, you ain't got to do no put on your tinfoil hat and do the equations on the whiteboard and erase that and come up with some more. You ain't got to do all that. Just ask a simple question. They can't hold up. I've noticed this as well. I know I'm all over the place. People can tell you about this, that, and the third, these people, or whatever's going on, but can't tell you nothing about themselves. I deal with that routinely at work. You know, people, oh, these people doing this and this one doing this. Okay, well, what you finna do today? Crickets. How do you know all this about everybody's business, but nothing about yourself, yo? Now, I've been in the same boat, whereas though, as far as why do I do what I do, or, you know, my dad would ask, boy, you just made this genius, you know, I seen you do something super spectacular, son. And then in the very next day, you do the stupidest stuff known to man. Why you do that, son? Something simple. You know what I do? I don't know. And be honest, I don't know, because I haven't gone, I'm not self-reflecting. I'm not self-analyzing. I'm not holding myself accountable. I'm almost, and I think that's what they're bringing humans, if you still want to label the mass majority who got as humans, right? They're bringing us to a place of beasthood, where you're governed by nothing but instinct and desire. Eat, sex, sleep. But there's no higher cognitive function in any of this, man. I'm just looking at it from the outside looking in and kind of doing a YouTube vlog of just the various things I see. And I feel so bad for my homeboy, because he fell into the traps we all fall into. I just been gracious enough to get out. I probably fell into more traps than him and probably been in a more dangerous situation than him, but it was God, the Most High's covering. And I believe he knew after a period of time it would bring this about. Here's a telltale trait of the quote-unquote chosen, right? Now, everybody suffers to some degree. The rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. So just because you suffer don't mean you chosen, or your woman leave you, or, you know what I mean, you in isolation. That don't mean. This is how you know you're chosen, based on what it produces. If I don't, like I talk about the spiritual epigenetic process, if I don't go through all that hardship, it doesn't form me into who I am now. And I've been bitter and I blame shifting and all that. But I went through a process, not intellectually, I just became this. And then once I became it, now I realize I'm this. Now I'm realizing, it's like, yo, I can't mess with Bonquisha, yo. I wouldn't even think about no Bonquisha. I just woke up one day and realized I have no desire for that. In obedience to the best level of my understanding, I became this. You understand me? This wasn't like a caterpillar don't go in a cocoon, I'm assuming, and tell itself, yo, I'm gonna come out a butterfly. It just goes through the natural process. All the detrimental stuff was just part of my natural process, and I was sustained in it. That's how I'm able to function and see the stuff I see in the way I see it now, because my eyes have been open. Pain and suffering should open your eyes, yo, to the fallacy of the world, belief systems, and constructs. Like, I've been known about the fake monetary system. You know what I mean? I knew that when I was in middle school. That ain't make no sense to me, and couldn't nobody answer the question. Then they'll say you crazy and want to put you on Prozac or something. Ain't nothing wrong with me, yeah. All I did was ask a simple question. That from where you sit at, I'm thinking you should be able to answer. And they probably can answer. What it is, they're trying to see, will you just blindly follow? You know what I mean? For the word say, my sheep know my voice. That voice said, man, this is all BS. Not necessarily, I'm just paraphrasing. Just like the Big Bang Theory was BS. Evolution ain't make no sense to me. And I went to church and all that, but I wasn't thinking about it in a spiritual sense. I was just thinking about it in a straight, my logic sense. You know what I mean? None of it make, paying for a house for 30 years don't make no sense. And I'm what, 14 at the time? My mind can't understand. I'm half of 30 and paying for something. What happens if I get sick? Then what? So I paid into it for 22 years, get sick, and now I lose all my money. I just want to pay for it and be over with. I don't like people always in my pockets every 30 days. That's to one degree how I've been able to sustain, because I limit my reoccurring bill. And I don't need it. And I don't feel like looking the part. I want to be the part. You know what I'm talking about? I don't care nothing about keeping up with no Joneses. You know what I mean? Not at all. And never have. And what this journey has done is just further reinforced and bolted that down. I remember once I was thinking about this too, right? When I was in Baltimore trying to get a job and couldn't, I messed around, cut all my facial hair off, right? To look less threatening as the black man, and still couldn't get no job. So I did all that trying to appease some people, and it still didn't work. Now I ain't peed nobody other than my personal conscience. And if I'm doing something or I'm trending a certain way, I got a sense of conscience. The Most High will trigger that jump. Oh, man, you need to go apologize. Oh, yeah, I'll go handle it. You know what I'm saying? Genuinely. Because I don't want no parts of the discipline no more. You know what I mean? Like the word say, it don't feel good, but it's for your best interest. Again, paraphrasing. But I don't want no parts of that. You ever get a good hind part whooping and don't want no more of that? Yeah, you got to worry about me doing nothing wrong. No, ooh. And I don't do nothing wrong when ain't nobody around. That's the key. The same way I am in front of people, same way I am when I'm exercising, when I'm driving to the beach or wherever. I don't have multiple masks I got to put on. Now I might have to put on multiple hats as a son, father, employee, servant of the Most High, whatever the case may be. But I don't feel like changing my face here. Go around these people on one way. Go around these people on something different. No, man, we're not doing that. Now, I might speak different depending on the audience, but the core stuff, man, if I got to, and I heard this from the brother Immortal Mind, if I got to drop some aspect of who I am to be accepted or ingratiated into some type of grouping, the grouping not worthy of me. And on that note, I'm going to holler at y'all. One love, baby. Oh,